So, good morning, everyone. My name is Leave. I'm a Greentown mom. I have an alum son, Jasper, and a P1 daughter, Sina. I'm also a registered dietitian. I've been seeing children out of Advocare Fairmount Pediatrics just up the road for about 2.5 years now, and I also see adults in my own practice. Today's topic is picky eating, which is real, and it's vast. It's a really big world and nuanced, and so we'll get into some of this here. Why is there picky eating? Everyone wonders. Well, there is like normal, and then there's like extreme picky eating. Like I said, there's a spectrum of it, and so part of normal childhood development, it comes up around like 18 months, 2 years of age, and can last up until 6 years. So fun.
You're almost out of it.
And seriously. And I can see a change in Jasper already, so it happens. Then, along these years, there's independence being desired and learned, autonomy, and eating is really like the number one thing that we have 100% control of. Like no one else can make you like put a food in your mouth, chew it, and swallow it. So it's in our control. We also think like evolutionarily, 18 months is maybe when that toddler started wandering away from the group, and this neophobia, fear of new foods, came because they don't want them to pick those bright red berries off the bush that might kill them. It could also be mechanical, medical, or sensory issues. Example of mechanical would be like swallowing difficulties, like if a child is unable to coordinate swallowing muscles or chewing. I had a patient who couldn't put their tongue side to side, lateral, so they can't move the bolus of food from each side to chew. And then medical would be like reflux. They might have like small meals, like not eat a lot at every meal because it doesn't feel good to them. And sensory and behavioral dysregulation is a little harder to see, but it's very evident when you see it because eating is a very sensorial process. You've got sight, sound, smells, tastes on your taste, but feelings, textures on your hands and your mouth, and if you can't coordinate and regulate your senses, like if smells are too overwhelming, you can't get past that to actually eat the food. So there's a lot that can go on, and there's specialists involved. I would say speech can diagnose, swallowing difficulties. OT is great as well. And then there's also food allergies, whether they're diagnosed or undiagnosed. Children with multiple food allergies can be more picky than others because they've had adverse experiences with food and are scared and are constantly being asked, can you eat that? And then if it's undiagnosed and it's especially a young child, they might not know that they feel bad because of this food. They know this food doesn't make them feel good, but it might just look like picky eating to you. So, many reasons. When I really think about eating in general and then coming into picky eating, there's like two main things for me. There's feeding dynamics, and then there's food exposure and engagement. The feeding dynamics is like, what is the home food environment like? What are the mealtime, what's the vibe at meal times like? Is it, relaxed and fun? Is it stressful and exhausting? Are you exerting pressure, whether knowingly or not, on your child to eat the food? Easy access. This is like when I think of families that have like this like open snack drawer that a kid can go to anytime, and they're grazing all day and then they're not hungry at meals. That's usually a really easy fix. And then food exposure and engagement is like the second part of this, and that's really that sensorial approach and methods that help to foster a curious and confident eater. And I will dive into that for sure. The feeding dynamics, in my mind, need to be fixed first, because you can't have a stressful eating environment and expect a child to want to be open to exploring any food. So that's usually the first to be addressed. With the dynamics, so Ellen Satter is sort of like this godmother of childhood nutrition and feeding. She came up with this division of responsibility, and this is where the parent is responsible for the what, where, and when of eating, feeding, and the child is responsible for, of the food that's offered, what are they going to eat, and whether they're going to eat it all, so how much. This is really hard to do. But it's important because it can lead to like lower pressure times and therefore more relaxed meal times. It is not our job to tell our children what or how much to eat. I say that, but I know it's hard. Like, as a mom of two, I'm constantly, I think every dinner I'm checking myself on this. So nothing's gonna be perfect, but keep it in mind. It also increases the child's autonomy when they know that they get to choose what food to eat. It helps them relax. And it also sort of has this door open for oh, I get to choose if I want to try something new tonight. Like this is, or I get to choose to eat a carrot. And it changes the whole atmosphere. And even for parents, it changes you. I've had patients come back 2 weeks later after addressing the eating dynamics, and they just sound different on the call. They're more relaxed. They're like, yeah, they didn't eat this night, but that's okay. I gave them a snack and they're fine. So it's really good for everyone. It also fosters intuitive eating. We're all born as this perfect round shiny marble of we know our hunger and satiety cues, and if we come to a table and ask the child to have 5 more bites or finish their plate, they're not in tune with those cues, and it can really disrupt it. And so that's when it gets all muddled up later in life. And then I think it builds this trust between a parent and a child, really. Going back to the when of feeding, this is when you have those structured meals and snack times. So a lot of their toddler schedules are breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner, maybe snack afterwards. It's a lot of eating opportunities. But that's great because if they skip a meal or a snack or eat light, you know that they have another eating opportunity coming up later in the day. They know they have another eating opportunity coming up. So it's not like they're going to be forced to eat when they're not hungry because they don't know when the next time they're going to eat is. That kind of restriction or food insecurity can certainly lead to difficulties eating. I would say sort of dysfunctional eating. Now we get into the fun part, food exposure and engagement. I have this up here, so I don't know if any of you have heard of the sequential oral sensory steps to eating, or SOS steps. It is a lot more complex, there's a lot more steps. I've really simplified it here, but I really want you to see it starts from the bottom up of each of these, and these are different levels that we go through as children and that our children go through to learn how to eat a food. Now, we don't always think about this as a baby starting solids, but they're doing all of these steps. You'll see them as a newborn, smelling the food that you cook, seeing you prepare the food. They might smell food, they're playing with the food, they get it on their hands, they might accidentally lick their hands or lick their hands on purpose. They're tasting it, you've seen them chew food and spit it out. All of that is feedback. The more I've dived into this, I really think the Montessori method, the sensorial way of learning, is absolutely what happens when you learn how to eat. And so it's an important part. That's why you want kids to get messy. You want them to really get into their food. But knowing that there's all these steps, sometimes 6, 7, 8-year-olds that are extreme picky eaters, they need to go back to the beginning. I have a patient now who won't touch, will touch maybe 5 foods, and so she's using utensils to serve herself and other people as a way to just get close to food right now. But there are children that need to go back to the beginning and slowly work their way up again. So knowing this, having someone who's a little bit picky or maybe a little bit nervous about food, asking them to try a food for the first time can be a big leap of faith, and it's scary. So just want to put that out there. All right, first thing here, I would always recommend, as much as possible, can you do family meals and serve the food in family style service? So that's all the food in bowls on the table, even quote unquote their food. You want to democratize the table. It should look like all the food is for everyone at all times. And to that extent, I would say, sometimes there's that really picky eater who only wants chicken nuggets. It's very classic food. take a nugget, take some of their food, and just to like really nail that concept home that it's for everyone. You don't have to do it all the time, but I recommend it sometimes, just so that they know. I love this because it also leaves the door open for them to maybe be curious and say, hey, can I try that food tonight? If their plate's already plated, they don't have that opportunity. And then have all the foods out at the same time. That way you're not running back to like get their food if they don't like everything else that's on there. You should include, I would say, 1 to 2 items of their food that you know that they're going to eat. No short order cooking. It goes to having all the food out at the same time. Once you do that, short order cooking is really hard to dig out of. But it's okay to modify foods. Here's, we made a Cobb salad last week or so, and this was Sina's plate. And she took the chicken, the bacon, tomatoes, and avocado. We had some random sweet potato mash. So she was completely happy with this plate, and my husband and I had the whole salad with everything mixed in, but it worked out really well. But you can deconstruct the meals, and that helps them see what all the individual components are too. For a picky eater, deconstructed meals are gonna be your best friend, because they then get to choose what they want. They get to, they have a lot of autonomy and independence with that. It also gives them more opportunity to pass like serving bowls around and to serve themselves. Also with family style, with the food in the bowls, depending on the age of your child, it's fun to pass all the bowls around to people to serve themselves. Even if they're not going to have that food, you say, if you don't want to take any, just pass it around here. But they're getting that exposure, they're getting near the food, they're getting the sight, the smells, maybe they hear it when you spoon it out. Any exposure is good exposure. Family meals are also great for building food vocabulary. You can talk about, for younger kids especially, like, oh, the tomato, this is red. It's a half circle or half sphere. Avocados are mushy. Again, you're just building food vocabulary. If something is salty, like, oh, I taste salt on this. We have to build a vocabulary just as much for food as we do for toys and the rest of things. Parent modeling also happens at family meals. Very important. One of the first steps that a child knows the food is safe is because they see you eating it. And again, I highly recommend to serve a variety of foods in a variety of ways. Now, a variety of ways could mean either like serve that grilled cheese cut in different ways so they don't get stuck on one shape. It could also mean having sweet potatoes served roasted, mashed, steamed, whole sweet potato cut up in different shapes. I don't know, but the more variety, the more flexibility your child will have.
Are you saying that at the same meal or like different?
And
different meals.
Different meals, yes, different meals. To be clear.
5 ways.
Although I would say, I'm actually, for like kids starting solids, I'll have it presented in 2 different ways.
But not 5.
No, no, maybe like 2, and that's just to see what's easier for them.
Just use our personal chef.
Yeah, sure. Exactly, no. Okay, so then we're gonna dive into each of these here, the food exposure and engagement. Okay, with the basics here. So tolerating and interacting with the food. Here's examples of how to make this work, but really tolerate is, can the child be in the same room? Can the food be on the table with them? Can it be near them? Like, does it have to be across the table? Can it be in the center? Can it be, on the plate next to them? Lots of different levels of tolerance. Interacting with food. I have here, food prep, which is really like the #1 thing to do. It's like a low pressure setting. It's a fun way to engage, interact with food, and children instinctively know that this is not a mealtime and they're not going to be asked to eat food. So it's a great way just to get them around food. Of all ages, they can wash fruits and veggies, they can tear lettuce for salad, scrub potatoes. It can get messy, but that's okay. It's a lot of fun. There's a scraper there. Sina used to love, I would chop like the veggies, and then she would use the scraper to scrape them up and put them in a bowl. That was one of her favorites. And then You could also do, these cutters. A note on the cutters. I think people buy these because they think if they have cute shapes in the lunchbox, kids are gonna eat the food more. Answer is yes, maybe temporarily. But really, the purpose of these cutters is so that the kids can be in the kitchen using them with you. And I've had kids of all ages just not resist the cutters, they love them. So it's really for them to use against the food and not necessarily for the cute shapes to eat later, but that's still a part of it. But I think they're great just for that purpose. You can also play games with them too, if you were to cut sweet potatoes or regular potatoes, they're a little bit softer. And then you can have the child try to fit them back in like puzzles. And then you cook the potatoes, you roast them and try to have them fit them in later, and it doesn't work because they've changed shape after cooking. And then you can talk about why do they change shape. Why this is good is because it's giving the child familiarity with the food, but you're not asking them to eat it, but they're also not ignoring it. And that's part of the thing. You don't want them to completely ignore the food.